Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream, and thank you so much for tuning in for another show. The Iranian armed forces today landed explosive missiles on Israel, proving that Iran is fearless in the face of the entity of terror and does not stop attacking Israel despite continuous aggressions from the Zionist entity on the state of Iran. The attacks of Iran today on Israel were so heavy that all of a sudden we started to hear the tone changing. All of a sudden, some people are talking about diplomacy. All of a sudden, Donald Trump has 2 weeks. All of a sudden, people and global leaders, including Western allies of Donald Trump and of Israel, are encouraging Donald Trump to pull back, don't escalate. We're going to try and understand why and try and establish if this is a trick coming from the United States administration before a definite attack against Iran. But before that, let's see some more of what happened today. I posted a video earlier on with the majority of the videos that were circulating about the attacks that Iran carried out today against the genocide state in IDF terror base next to a hospital. Yes, exactly what Israel blames the Palestinians to be doing. And then the hub, the financial hub of Tel Aviv. But we've had more videos since, and let's have a look at some of the latest footage that was released of the unprecedented attack that Iran carried out on Tel Aviv and other parts of Israel today.
محمد ايه ولا روح يا سلام اللي انا مروح في شيء راح يوقع من هاي العمارة الحين محمد قاعد شراحي ببنيان إني ببنيان زي وقبل تراك
So as we can see, a huge attack coming from Iran against Israel today. And the Iranians, from their end, they made more statements that we're not actually looking to stop now. As a matter of fact, one of the most senior previous figures of the IRGC, who still holds a very important position and very close to the Iranian establishment, Razai, he made a very interesting statement today. And then we're going to go into the latest statements that are coming from the United States administration and how is that related to the moves that are coming from China and the moves and the statements that are coming from Russia. So the statement today from Mohsen Razai, who is the former commander of the Revolutionary Guards of the IRGC. He said that we will punish Israel in a way that will guarantee the country's future. He had a couple of interviews. One of them was with the Mahr News Agency. It was reported in Mahr News Agency. He said, 7 days have passed since our continuous battle with the enemy. during which a new face of our armed forces and our people has emerged. I extend thanks and appreciation to the fighters who stand 24/7 in the face of the enemy, as well as the security forces who played a role in arresting the infiltrators. And what he means by the infiltrators are the gangs of the Israeli Mossad who are operating in Iran, because the initial attacks were carried out by those people inside of Iran, with Israel trying to destabilize the country, despite the fact that today we have statements coming from Israel that they're saying that they don't want to take the regime down. And we'll also get to all of that and what's contributing to all of the statements. Now, he continued, we're in a very good position. The martyrdom of our senior and beloved leaders in our armed forces did not lead to any disruption in command, while the enemy believed that the martyrdom of our leaders would lead to achievements. He continued, our first victory is that our people and government were able to foil the Zionist enemy's calculations, while no other country had been able to achieve this. The enemy believed it had air superiority, cyber capabilities, and influence inside Iran, and attacked our nuclear scientists. It believed these calculations gave it significant advantage. This entity thought the Iron Dome would thwart Iran's missiles, and it imagined victory. Our missiles must penetrate 4 layers to hit their targets inside of Israel, and no one expected even a single missile to penetrate these layers. But dozens of our missiles bypassed them, and the Iranian attacks that happened was 10 times more powerful than Al-Aqsa flood, or the Iranian flood that happened was 10 times more powerful than Al-Aqsa flood. He's speaking now about an Iranian flood. And that's quite important, the terminology that Iran is using, by the way, because and now we're talking about a campaign, and all of these escalations, they began because of Al-Aqsa flood that was started by the Palestinian resistance against the genocide state. And for those of you who don't know Mohsen Razai, this is Mohsen Razai, who I'm quoting now after very important statements in relation to the escalation. Now, he continued, Israel is facing a major crisis, and the Zionist entity continues to be punished. We have inflicted severe punishment, but it is not enough. The punishment must guarantee the country's future. He said their goal was to create chaos within our country and destabilize its security, but they failed. They were unable to turn Iran into Syria. Instead, they themselves found themselves in a situation similar to Syria. Over the past 48 hours, we used over the several hours, where were we? We have used, over the course of 48 hours, we have used a combination of Fateh and Sijil missiles, which are the latest and most updated missiles of Iran, or some of the most advanced missiles, although they confirmed that they haven't used their latest tech yet. And he said they have caused great disruption in the enemy. We will continue until we are sure that the other party has repented. We will continue the punishment. Razai emphasized the revenge we are carrying out is rational, because if we do not force the enemy to surrender, the war will continue. Accepting an imposed truce would be more harmful than continuing to punish. Now, this is the strategy, by the way, and mind you, the IRGC now have full authority now in Iran. They can act exactly as they see fit. So according to him, we're continuing to punish them. No ceasefire until they repent and they ensure their countries, they ensure Iran's security and future as well. Our enemy has violated all international treaties, but our response is legal. We are defending ourselves, and many countries are hoping for Iran's victory. Even those who signed the Abraham Accords out of fear are hoping for the defeat of this absolute evil in the region. So continuing to sanction this entity is also a humanitarian act. He considered that this war is the most honorable war Iran has waged because the enemy is one of the darkest regimes and committed a blatant crime in broad daylight. And Iran's legitimacy in this war is clearer than any other war. If we win this war, not only Muslims in the region, but also more than 2 to 3 billion people in the world will rejoice. Probably more, I think, is being conservative, judging by the feedback that we're getting following Iran's attacks. I think maybe 7 to 8 billion people across the world will be happy. He continued, there is a power vacuum in the region, which America and Israel is trying to fill, but the countries of the region can form their own union. And if we achieve a decisive victory, we can make peace in the region and ensure the country's security for the next 50 years. So they're looking for the future. He added, during the sacred defense after the liberation of Khurram Shahr, the enemy attacked us so hard it was forced to accept the UN resolution. We do not want a long war, but the enemy must be punished in such a way that it will not dare to return months or years later. We will inflict such a calamity on the enemy that it will be unable to survive, neither in the region nor anywhere else in the world. And let's stop with this statement here because every word is important. We will inflict such a calamity on the enemy that it will be unable to survive, neither in this region nor anywhere else in the world. So basically, we want to eliminate Israel, or in other words, wipe Israel off the map. Since last March, when our comrades became certain that war was about to break out, our missile and cyber capabilities have doubled. Razai continued, regarding defense and security capabilities, so far, we have utilized less than 30% of our actual capabilities. Now, mind you, that's not stock, that's capabilities. And less than 5% of our capabilities in confronting the enemy. We have not yet utilized our land and naval capabilities, nor tools such as the oil, the Strait of Hormuz, nor our allies. He said, we ask Israeli civilians to stay away from military sites from which we are being attacked. We are somewhat considerate of Israeli civilians. Come on, Mr. Razai is being not just large, but extra large. You know, they're trying to dismantle the whole terror infrastructure of the state of Israel, but he's saying that we're still somewhat considerate of Israeli civilians. I mean, if you can call that even a thing. A dark day awaits Netanyahu. He continued, I was the commander of the IRGC at the age of 27. The presence of the leader of the revolution was a great blessing. He made the timely decision to pursue indirect negotiations, and he also said the right time that negotiations would not succeed. If we accept an imposed truce today, Israel will attack us again in 2 months. This is why he's saying we should not have a truce now. We need to punish them, to make them repent. And we'll get to the kind of de-escalating tone now, even from the Israeli president. Some may repeat the truce talk, but an imposed truce will give the enemy a chance to rebuild. The Europeans are afraid of our missiles today and do not support Israel, but if we give them a chance, they may return to supporting Netanyahu. So the IRGC will continue the IRGC will continue the attacks. Then he was talking about how the Iranians have a love for the country and for fighting for the country as well, including many sacrifices that they made. So what we can understand from Mohsen Razai is that Iran isn't really looking for any ceasefire now, and the Iranians must punish Israel in such a way where Israel will repent, regret what it's done, and not go and attack Iran again in 2 months, according to him. Now, that wasn't the only statement coming that I wanted to share with you, because I wanted to share a few other statements that came from multiple officials on different platforms who are important in this matter, to try and understand where things are going and why things are happening. All of a sudden, we had the White House spokesperson coming out saying that I know that people are going to ask me, I know you're all going to ask me, you know, what's Trump's position? Is he going to go and attack Iran with Israel? And the president, Mr. President, said that he has a message for you all. And his message is as follows. He will make a decision on Iran within 2 weeks. Now, if that's not a slap in the face of Netanyahu, and of course we'll get to the prospect of, you know, this could be potentially a lie and what have you, war is deception, Trump is a hyper-pathological liar, and he is insincere and all of that, and he did 180s before, we'll get to all of that. But if we just stop it there with this statement here, seriously, we'll make a decision on Iran in 2 weeks? What does Israel have 2 weeks? Israel already lost this initial kick that they got with their smug, hideous faces smiling after the initial attack on Iran, thinking that Iran wouldn't be slapping them and punching them left, right, and center after that, only in increasing the blows, by the way. And what Iran is saying that, and I'll get to the other statements too, Iran is now saying that we will be gradually now increasing the attacks. Notice what Iran has done. Firstly, first wave, shock, then diversification, different time frames, and they're constantly expanding, keeping Israel on tenterhooks 24/7. And they've already attacked the majority of Israel's strategic sites, and they said we don't have any limits. Another IRGC commander said we don't have any limits. Every asset in this country is a target. So does Israel have 2 weeks to wait for Donald Trump to decide if he participates? 2 days ago, they were saying, next few hours, hopefully the next few days. What happened? What exactly happened to Donald Trump to go and now tell his spokesperson, tell them, and he will make a decision in 2 weeks? Why is he making a decision 2 weeks in that same report? Because there are still talks, indirect talks and direct talks with Iran, according to her. So clearly that was Trump being Trump again, loudmouth, barking, trying to scare, with nothing substantial, with talks still happening on the ground. But it wasn't just this statement coming from the spokesperson. Other statements came from European leaders and from the previous president, Bill Clinton, as well. The first leader was none other than Keir Starmer. He said, Trump, please don't escalate, don't ramp up the Middle East conflict by striking Iran. As a matter of fact, he said, you need to do more to de-escalate. Then Bill Clinton came up with a statement that was published on Fox News after he had an interview, and he urged Donald Trump to defuse the Israel-Iran crisis. That's previous President Bill Clinton. And why? His argument is Benjamin Netanyahu wants to remain in power forever, according to Bill Clinton. And of course, everyone knows that by now. So listen to that calculated campaign. But let's not forget the pattern and contextualize here. Israel gets a huge attack this morning. They get a taste of their own medicine. They get a beating. They are met with force. And then their faces look like dirty shoes all of a sudden because of how hard they were hit and how petrified they were. And then all of a sudden we have talks of de-escalation. And then Trump, of course, saying that, oh yeah, I want to have 2 weeks to talk. Now, it didn't just end there. Politico had an article about the Israeli president, Yitzhak Herzog. Herzog all of a sudden comes out and says, Iran regime change not our aim, Israel's Herzog says. And note, Benjamin Netanyahu had really, really shady type of declarations about the objectives of the war. Initially, he only said we want to pull back on the Iranian threat. Then he outright came with objectives that include taking down the nuclear threat and a strategic missile threat, and then a regime change. Then he went back on the regime change thing, Benjamin Netanyahu, but again, very vague objectives of the war, affecting their nuclear capabilities and their strategic capabilities. So that tomorrow, if there is a ceasefire, he will tell you, oh, well, I attacked them and I had to end it there, so that he can maintain his popularity or, you know, some sort of a support for the next elections, because that's what he's interested in. Then Herzog came, we're not interested in regime change, and he's confirming in this article as well, there's also space for diplomacy. According to Yitzhak Herzog, there's space for diplomacy all of a sudden. When do they talk like that? When they get a beating, when they face the language, the only language that they understand. Now, it didn't finish there. Herzog made this statement. Netanyahu just had another statement today trying to clarify. They're noticing that some of the Iranians who oppose the government in Iran, so of course any country you will have people opposing the government. You have that in Europe, in America, all across the world. There is no country where everyone agrees on the government and who runs the country. As a matter of fact, when you're in power, you're almost automatically criticized. You automatically make enemies. But the Israelis are upset because some of the people who oppose the government, whether in or outside Iran, all of a sudden are taking a position with the government, saying, no, it's our country, we want to defend it. We can have our disagreements, but no, thank you, IRGC, for smacking the child killers. All of a sudden, they started to take a step back. Oh, it's up to the Iranian people. All of a sudden became, it's up to the Iranians. They can decide what they want. All of a sudden, in one day, you change all of that. Yesterday, he was saying it's a regime of darkness and Khamenei is a son of death and we need to kill him. All of a sudden, everything changed because they know that now the Iranians are supporting their government, even if they disagree with them on, for example, day-to-day policies. Despite the fact, of course, that there have been and changes still are ongoing in reforms in Iran, by the way, that Pezeshkian himself is leading. Now, what's leading all of that, and how are the Russian and Chinese statements linked? I'm going to get to that in a second. But before that, you would expect a leader of a country that is facing the biggest bombardment in its history, getting a proper beating. You'd expect him to be worried about the people, wouldn't you? There are people missing under the rubble in Israel. Do you know that? There are thousands of wounded and dozens, if not hundreds, killed. Israel today only confirmed that 200 were wounded. But of course, they will deny how many casualties and what have you. Try not to create a paranoia. You'd think that the prime minister would go out and think, oh yeah, the Israeli people is... But Benjamin Netanyahu had something to say. And here's what Benjamin Netanyahu had to say.
יש אנשים שלצערנו גם נהרגו, משפחות ששכלו יקירים. אני מאוד מעריך את זה. כל אחד מאיתנו נושא מחיר אישי. זה לא פסח על המשפחה שלי. כן, פעם שנייה שבני אבנר, בגלל איום טילים וירי טילים, מבטל חתונה. זה בוודאי מחיר אישי יקר לו, גם לארוסתו ולמשפחתנו. וגם אני חייב להגיד, רעייתי היקרה היא גיבורה. היא נושאת מחיר אישי במשך שנים. כשאני מוביל את המהלך הזה נגד הגרעין האיראני, היא הקריבה את מיטב שנותיה, ונתנה לי את כל הכוח להיות פה, כי בלעדיה לא הייתי כאן, וכך גם שני בניי. יש אנשים ש...
So hold on a second. People are being bombarded by Sijil and Fattah and Imad and Khurram Shah. And Benjamin Netanyahu was worried about his son canceling a wedding for the second time. His family is protected 24/7. They have bunkers, their house is shielded, bulletproof glass. They even probably protect the pool. So he's worried, and he was like, oh yeah, we're paying the price too. You know, Israelis are getting killed and we're losing lives, and I'm sending people to kill children in Gaza, and they go back in boxes and chop to pieces, and sometimes they burn in tanks. Like today, the Palestinian resistance roasted 3 tanks with everyone inside them, and they came back to see the pieces after all of that. But Netanyahu is saying, yeah, of course, I also sacrifice. You know, my son cancels the wedding. I mean, it's fine to have a wedding during a war anyway, but hell, we canceled the wedding. I'm not going to smoke cigars. I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to do all of that. So Netanyahu is sacrificing, really. But the reason I wanted to share that, by the way, is to highlight the detachment. Now, the definitions of psychopathy, go into that, read into that. Detached from reality. You don't feel other people's pain. You can't even get to yourself to a level where you understand how people are feeling around you. And you have this lunatic of a prime minister saying, yeah, the people are getting killed. And guess what? I sacrificed too. My son canceled the wedding. I'm not going to be having meals, and I'm not going to be having cigars, or probably, I don't know if he sniffs something. Now, we spoke about Israel getting a beating. And then, of course, we had started to have certain changes in the tone and how they're talking. But there were other moves. There were other statements too. Now, China and Russia are trying to have a step ahead of the United States before they participate. So China and Russia are telling the United States, don't even come here. As in, don't even think about it. And today there was an interesting interview with the Russian President Putin, who said, we arm Iran. I mean, it's not linked to what they're doing now, but we do arm them. And guess what? We have nuclear scientists in the facilities. And what are you going to do? Are you going to attack them? Are you going to declare war on us? We tried to help Iran with the air defenses. They really didn't need it. They were fine, according to him. And like he said before, he didn't even want to hear about the prospect of assassinating the supreme leader of Iran, Sayyid Ali Khamenei, because some people were saying in Israel that, oh yeah, we need to kill him, we need to do this and that. And from his side, don't even think about it. Then there were more reports of Chinese ships coming to the region, apart from the cargo coming from China in the past few days to Iran, reports that other countries are supporting too. All of that is making the United States have calculations, internal disagreements. The MAGA crowds who voted for Trump, for him not to intervene in other countries and focus on America first, going up against him, creating a lot of pressure, or at least a very large chunk of them as well, alongside the rest of the population of the United States, by the way, who don't want a war. I mean, even in the peak of manipulation and the weapons of mass destruction garbage in the early 2000s, Americans were in their millions in the streets opposing a war in Iraq, let alone now, 2 years into a full-blown genocide being conducted by a war criminal and an entity of terror run on supremacy. What, do the Americans want to go and die for Benjamin Netanyahu when his son is still in America? Maybe the Americans are going to go and die for Benjamin Netanyahu. That isn't going to happen. It ain't going to happen, my friend. And the Europeans are not playing ball. Apart from Nazi Germany, by the way, the Nazi chancellor said, oh yeah, Israel is, doing the dirty work and Nazi Germany should support them. Or, Europe should support. But typical, Nazi Germany, nothing has changed. They just shaved the mush. Nothing really changed there. But apart from that, there's no real practical things on the ground to go and establish this coalition or this support. Is this an attempt from Donald Trump to go and deceive Iran so that he can conduct an attack against Iran later on, and in the meantime make Iran, be a bit more assured, talk to them here and there, try and tell them that things are going to be okay, and then land a missile or land this and that? Well, that is going to have consequences that the United States cannot guarantee. So there are multiple scenarios. The first scenario is the United States does not participate and it leaves Israel to its own fate, because guess what? If you leave them, they get eliminated. They're a foreign entity. They're foreign to the land. It's a fake state. And they created a fake identity and fake nationality based on fairy tales. But then there's another option. That option is let Israel continue to attack in Iran, even if Iran attacks Israel, and the United States has the decisive strike. And that decisive strike will come on the Fordo primarily, because according to Israel, we can't completely eliminate the nuclear program of Iran unless Fordo is attacked, assuming or thinking that they have all of the knowledge about the nuclear program, by the way. And if you think that Iran allowed the IAEA, by the way, to all the nuclear sites, that's not true. Anyway, let's take that argument for an argument's sake. The United States goes and attacks Fordo. With what are they going to attack them with? With the bunker buster, Moab, or the what is it called? The BU-57, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Is there any confirmation that this can actually reach the location itself? Number one, no. People who specialize in this field cast doubt. No proven evidence that it can actually do it. Secondly, well, if they do you exactly know the depth of Fordo? Do you have the actual internal map over there, or what exactly? You're talking about a mountain and a facility that is deep under that mountain. So you need to consider the mountain itself and the way under the ground. And how far does Iran go under the ground? And how can you guarantee that that's 60 meters or 50 or 70 meters? And why wouldn't they have something 500 or 600 meters under the ground? You see, all of it doesn't make any sense. The third option, and that with that option, by the way, the United States would not be able to guarantee what the Iranian response would be. So the cost for that one single attack, for the sake of a genocidal maniac and an entity of terror committing a genocide, could be wiping off all of the American bases inside of the region. That's one price. Then, can the United States guarantee how long will this last? Can Iran show them? I just told you what Razai was saying, Mohsen Razai. We're going to hit them so that they can't even think of attacking us again. That's the thing, the deterrence. And, well, that was something that everyone should have thought of way before. Land a strike so hard that they don't dare even think about attacking you. They go and have deals with them and think that, diplomacy. We're living in a world of international law and all of that, all of these cute things. That's all ink on paper. The past 2 years have proven to you that international law doesn't exist. There is no enforcement, and no one can stop a country committing a genocide, even if they don't like it, and even if the ICJ and the ICC and everyone goes against them. And guess what? The biggest country in the world will go and threaten them and sanction them. They already have the Hague Act since the Bush days, the United States, invading the Hague in case they go and arrest someone that the United States considers to be an ally. They threatened Karim Khan outright. Senators were sending letters, warning him, threatening him, his life and his family. This is the world that we live in. Therefore, Iran now clearly understands that. This is how you want to play. This is what you're going to get. You started this. You're not going to stop it. We're going to decide when it stops, and you're going to pay the price. Now, so we have the deterrence, we have the statements, the de-escalation, the prospect of deception, and the third and worst option, by the way, which is a full US participation. Is that an option? It is an option. Does the United States have the capacity to do that? Yes, it does. Success rates, that's a different question. But let's take, for example, the past year and a half. The United States formed a genocide coalition with Britain. They tried to make it a 7-country coalition. They failed miserably. Some countries told them, we'll send you 1 or 2 officers or someone to drink cocktails and smoke cigars on the ships, but that didn't work. They ended up going with the United Kingdom. They formed a genocide protecting cartel in the Red Sea to support Israel against Ansarullah and Houthis. The real enforcers of international law, by the way. Al-Houthi, Ansarullah, they are the enforcers of international law. Why? Because they were conducting a fully legit embargo on a country committing a genocide. But the United States and the United Kingdom decided to go against them for the sake of a genocidal entity. Now, the United States went and it sent aircraft carriers, as in the biggest, the Freddy Krueger of the United States Army, or whatever other horror character. We want to scare the living daylight out of you, and then therefore we send that to you, only for them to face Ansarullah's fearlessness and them expelling the aircraft carriers. That means the United States can have a participation, but how did that end? That ended with a deal with Ansarullah in Yemen so that the United States can remove and not be attacked. Judging by that, this does not show power. This shows you that the United States is very, very vulnerable. And if Ansarullah expelled 4 American aircraft carriers in the region with self-made drones and cruise missiles and some ballistic missiles potentially, what can Iran do? Iran can dictate who goes into the Hormuz Strait. The United Kingdom tried to send a surveillance ship. They told them, go back, and they went back. Very obedient. China, welcome. China went in, fine. Are they going to allow American ships to go into the Hormuz Strait or an aircraft carrier? They'll fill up the whole thing with mines once they go in. That's if not, they can land 100, 200, 300 missiles on the aircraft carrier and sink it in a matter of hours. It'll be deep into the seawater. So the United States knows that. Therefore, there's a very big reason to believe that any sensible person in the military establishment in the United States knows these facts very well. However, it's not only about the people who are leading the military. At the end of the day, the power is in the hands of the president. So, like Benjamin Netanyahu went on an attack with Iran, a unilateral attack on Iran, and by all reports without an American green light, without an American approval, and without an American participation, and against the will of the IDF chief of staff and his advice not to go on an attack with Iran unless the United States is with us from the beginning, Trump is able to do the same thing. But there are many reasons to believe that he won't. What are these reasons? Well, number one, despite the political type of corrupt salad that Donald Trump engages with his statements, his lack of clarity, Donald Trump promised his base, I'm going to end wars. He previously criticized the Iraq war. He was always warning Obama against the war in Iran. He was always warning Biden from a war against Iran for political purposes. Then he reached deals. Then, well, if you want to argue about, well, did Trump know or did he not know, or did he give a heads up for Iran? Trump withdrew his troops and their families and the staff from the bases 1 day before Israel attacked, 1 and 2 days before Israel attacked. Wasn't that a clear enough signals for the Iranians to be on the highest alert? Plus, they told the Turks told the Iranians immediately. So Iran knew that something was coming. Yes, they didn't know how it's going to be conducted. Israel will, of course, have its surprises. Israel has a very long arm. They have an advanced intelligence. They have sleeper cells. They have terror cells globally. So they were able to conduct this operation over there. That operation did not affect the Iranian leadership. It did not affect their capabilities, and it did not affect their will to teach them a lesson, like the lessons that they're teaching them now. Therefore, the argument so far is stronger on the United States not participating. However, that doesn't say that that's what's going to happen. Everything can happen. We saw in the past 2 years, everything can happen. So many lines have been crossed. When you don't respect the lives of innocent people, and you have countries who constantly boast about human rights and all of that, all of these nice statements and slogans, and then support the butchering of over 55,000 Palestinians, over 20,000 of which children, well, anything can happen. Anything can happen. They have a rich history in genocides across the world, don't they? So something can happen now. Although, of course, the awareness levels are different, the approval rates are different, but they still have the capacity. People are still being killed to this day inside of the Gaza Strip, and innocent people are being killed in Iran too. So there is that prospect, but the likelihood from what's happening now is more towards the United States not participating. Why? And this is a very important note here, because every hour counts. Israel started this campaign with a huge blow, taking down Iranian military leaders, targeting vital points. It's starting to target the nuclear program from day one, a very big attack. But the image of that attack started to fade away very, very quickly. Firstly, we had an immediate Iranian response in the evening. Secondly, Iran began to diversify and increase its attacks that led to today. So we're seeing a pattern that's becoming more complex and more sophisticated. Today, for the first time, Iran sent a drone that has the capacity to launch missiles on Israel for the first time, a combat drone, which is technically like a fighter jet, a smaller fighter jet, but without someone, without a pilot, remote control, let alone the missiles that are landing on the child killers' heads inside of Israel. So they started to lose that. And from their perspective, every minute is vital. Every minute is crucial. Every minute that the United States is not participating with them is a minute where their image is becoming worse and worse. And they want to, as a matter of fact, they're taking very severe measures to try and shut down any sort of independent media, threatening journalists, threatening international news agencies not to broadcast live images, only for Iran to decide to target the heart of Tel Aviv in broad daylight, and to force the Israeli media to bring the report. Why? Because, well, if you're not going to show it and everyone in Israel and Tel Aviv saw it on that day, what else are they going to believe? So they were forced to show everything. In Israel today, they were publishing all of the images and a lot of the videos as well of the attacks that were being carried out today by Iran in the morning. Then I wanted to talk about the hospital. This hospital, right? Today, the Israeli defense minister says, how dare they? How dare they breach international law and attack a hospital? Wow. Iran published, thankfully, evidence that this hospital has a command base. Israel always claimed that the Palestinian resistance, they have command bases under hospitals. It's because they do that. Every accusation is a confession to them, to their wrongdoing. But the Israelis didn't really like that. Why are they attacking hospitals? Now, the big problem was they were expecting sympathy. That sympathy was nowhere to be seen. Some, even in Western mainstream media, were talking about the fact that this hospital has or treats child killers coming out from Gaza. And Soroka is indeed just a couple of miles away from Gaza. The depraved TikTok diaper army go there, they kill children, and they go back to be treated. And that's what they targeted. Iran fully backing itself with any attack against Israel. But Israel was crying today. How dare they attack a hospital? Dude, no one was sympathizing with you. As a matter of fact, people today, they were celebrating. They were asking, please more, please finish the job. There's an online campaign, social media too. People were talking about the need of Iran to completely finish the job and then they get this over and done with. Two more very important things that I want to talk to you about. The front, the resistance front. Now, Iran has made it clear now to everyone on earth that it's a resistance state. Iran is a country of resistance. Resisting what exactly? Resisting oppression, resisting countries, foreign countries imposing their will on them, resisting genocide, and supporting the rights of the oppressed people. Now, disagree with Iran on that topic, disagree with Iran on that topic. One thing's for sure, you cannot argue that they are a resistance country. And they have positioned themselves now as the country of resistance that is standing up against the child killers, giving them a beating and teaching them a lesson after a lesson. But they have allies, don't they? We haven't seen anything from them as in, direct participation with them. Now, there was a notion previously that if Iran is attacked, it wouldn't necessarily be the one attacking Israel. It would let Hezbollah attack Israel from Lebanon, for example, or ask the Palestinians to support chip in. No. Iran is self-sufficient. And guess what? They have a capacity that none of them have. Iran, the missiles that they're landing on Israel, the Lebanese and the Palestinians, they don't have that stuff. Ansarullah in Yemen, you have something close to, but not what Iran has, not what Iran is showing and hasn't shown, by the way, yet. They still have surprises, by the way. Today there was a statement, two statements that I want to talk to you about. One of them was from the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Sheikh Naim Qasim, and the other one was from the leader of Ansarullah, Abdul Malik al-Houthi. The first one was from Naim Qasim. Everyone is trying to extract the info from Hezbollah, telling them, are you going to participate? Are you going to chip in? Are you going to join in? Now, Al Jazeera yesterday quoted an Iranian official. Again, you can't verify based on a certain source, but they said that. They said that Iran will be, Hezbollah will be in the picture if the United States attacks us. But from Hezbollah's perspective, they did not confirm exactly what they're going to do. And from their perspective, we're not going to show exactly what we're going to do because I would be exposing myself. But Secretary General of Hezbollah said, we are not neutral between Iran's legitimate rights and independence and the falsehood of Israel and America, the Islamic Republic of Iran represents a prominent global beacon of supporting the oppressed, backing the resistance, and providing full support for the liberation of Palestine and Jerusalem. It is a precious faith-based, moral, and independent experience. The arrogant tyrants led by America could not tolerate this pioneering humanitarian model for the free people of the world, nor the steadfastness of Iran under Imam Khomeini and the great people for 46 years in the face of all forms of aggression and siege, nor Iran's political, economic, and scientific renaissance and the achievement of an advanced level of defensive capabilities by relying on its own strength, trusting in God Almighty, and the rallying of its people around the inspired, wise, and courageous leadership represented by the great religious authority and supreme leader, Imam Khamenei. He continued, the tyrants could not tolerate Iran inspiring the resistance fighters eager to liberate their land, especially in Palestine, Lebanon, and the region, and supporting them, bearing all costs and consequences for its standing with the truth and the cause of the age, Palestine. He continued, what is the flimsy pretext for the Israeli aggression decided by America, supported by it and the tyrants across the world? The pretext is uranium enrichment and its nuclear program for peaceful purposes, which it wants to serve its people and advance them. It is a right guaranteed by international laws and International Atomic Energy Agency, and it does not cause the slightest harm to anyone. Rather, it is a great scientific contribution to the advancement of Iran in the region, relying on its own capabilities without foreign tutelage. He believed that global arrogance does not want Iran to be a light of faith, knowledge, and freedom that shines on the region and the world, and that would be good for Iran and the oppressed. He continued to talk about the threat of the United States and others on the life of the supreme leader, and that Iran has a right to defend itself. We in Hezbollah, that's one of the important bits, and the Islamic resistance are not neutral between Iran's legitimate rights and independence and falsehoods of America and its aggression, and with it, the cancerous tumor of Israel and the arrogant powers. We stand with Iran in confronting this global injustice, but we are with our independence, the liberation of our land, and the freedom of our decisions and choices. We are not neutral. Therefore, we express our position alongside Iran, leadership, and people, and we will act as we see fit in confronting this brutal American-Israeli aggression. So, it was all nice, but still shy of declaring what they'll exactly do. A position of strength and keeping the enemy on tenterhooks. You don't know what they're going to do exactly. However, Iran, apart from the fact that they have the capacity and capability to conduct attacks against U.S. interests in the region, alongside continued blows against the child-killing, murderous Zionists in occupied Palestine, they might reach a stage where they would have this support. When will that happen? That would depend on each front, because clearly, despite the fact that there is a clear coordination, and we did have coordinated attacks at certain points, each country or each front has its own interests and its own calculations and its own populations too. And at the end of the day, all of these things need to be taken into consideration, and it wouldn't necessarily be wise for them to declare when or how they will be participating. Likewise, to be fair, with the bigger countries like China and Russia, they can only give certain hints, and there might be certain messages being given to the United States administration about the danger of participation. That's apart from the blatant statements that came out publicly from the Russians and from the Chinese too. Then we had the leader of Ansarullah, who said that the Iranian response has confused the occupation and the aggression will not weaken the Iranians. Now, again, from the statement that's coming from Abdul Malik al-Houthi, a man who has proven his credibility and the credibility of Yemen in confronting Israel. Yemen has been the only front that has been constantly open on the genocide state to support the Palestinian people at all times and without any sort of calculations here, calculations there. And that is, by the way, primarily to a very simple and straightforward reason. The Yemeni people. The Yemeni people, every single Friday, they'll go out in their millions, supporting anything to support the Palestinian resistance and the Palestinian people. And their leaders are democratic, unlike many Western leaders. Many countries in the West that have populations in the streets, and it's as if nothing is happening. They'll hear it from here, it'll go out from there, and then they'll demonize them. No, from Yemen, no. Not only that they are champions of human rights and an implementation of international law, they are also exceptionally democratic. They listen to their people. If their people go out in their millions and tell them, punish this genocidal entity, they will tell them, yes, our people, we will, no problem. You're asking us to do that, we will go and we will punish them, unlike the majority of the countries across the world. And that's primarily due to both the Yemeni population and the Yemeni leadership. And again, despite the fact that the Yemenis did not outright state exactly what they will do or when they will do, at the end of the day, they are showing a position of solidarity and support for Iran, but not exactly elaborating when we will participate or when we will not be participating in the region. From their perspective, the support is there, and the moment that they decide that they need to escalate or do something different than before, then they will make that decision. Now, one of the final things that I wanted to talk to you about, if not the final thing that I wanted to talk to you about, is the fact that Iran is constantly sending more and more threats to Israel. Their recent threat was another attack on Dimona. Now, sometimes Iran will release certain threats or ultimatums to the Israelis, and they would not necessarily conduct them at that specific time. They would give a certain gap, and then they will conduct a certain attack. But so far from what has been happening, they are giving the Israeli population time to evacuate. Although the general advice that's coming from the IRGC is that leave and don't come back, because it's never going to be safe. So you're either going to be living in bunkers or just leave the country and don't come back. Now, many Israelis are leaving, both in ships through Cyprus or to Cyprus and from Cyprus to the rest of the world, or through Egypt. Egypt is giving them an easy trip out, by the way, too, or from Jordan as well. Then the Israelis have been saying that we targeted Natanz, we targeted Khandab, we targeted Arak, and then they wanted to attack Fordo too. Now, the same general that I spoke with you about, Razai, he also said a few things. Now, note, he previously stated that they knew that an attack was about to happen. But he made another statement. He said that we knew that they were going to attack these places. We knew very well. And guess what? All of the nuclear facilities were completely emptied before Israel, before Israel carried out the attack. That means Israel is selling the attack as if it's some sort of an accomplishment. However, from an Iranian perspective, they already took many steps to prevent further damage. And again, what Israel has planned for Iran, and I've been talking about this since yesterday, is far bigger than what they accomplished. The plan was to assassinate 400 people from the establishment and completely take down the country. That did not work, thanks to Iran's awareness and the quick, swift moves that were taken by the Iranians. Now, we were talking in the beginning of this live stream about the prospect of the United States attacking, giving multiple scenarios, either no attack and leave Israel to its own fate, which will be eventually death, or limited participation and what consequences can come following that participation. Thirdly, a full-blown participation and what can come after that. And in both scenarios 2 and 3, there will be devastation in the region, by the way. Forget about that. How is Israel taking it? 2 days ago, they were saying it's only hours up until the United States starts to participate. Donald Trump, Netanyahu is waiting for him. At one point, Netanyahu was waiting all night to get a call from Donald Trump that we're in. Didn't happen. 1 day passed, 2 days passes, and again, every hour is too long. Every minute is 1 minute too long. Every day is 1 day too long before another devastating attack coming from Iran to humiliate this fake paper tiger and show them for exactly what they are, a weak entity, only brave against innocent women and children that they're butchering day to day in Gaza, only for those martyrs in Gaza and in Lebanon and everywhere that there were martyrs in the past 2 years and before that, to be seeing that, for their spirits to be seeing revenge coming down on the heart of the genocide state. They are now worried. They're now actually worried. Israel is concerned about the United States position. What are they saying in Israel? Israel's concerned about the U.S. procrastination. They're calling it. Trump, there is a chance for negotiations. I will talk in 2 weeks. That's related to the first, one of the first things that I spoke to you about, which is the White House spokesperson saying that I have a message from Trump, and Trump said we will make a decision in 2 weeks, and how these 2 weeks are just way too much in such a conflict. It's like it's either a joke or a really stupid attempt to try and kind of make Iran take a step back, although the Iranians already aware of that, and from their perspective, Israel already crossed red lines and they're going to be punished. But there were articles in Israel showing worry. And in this article here in Ynet, they said in Jerusalem, they hope that the American president would join the campaign by the end of the week. But we are concerned that he might take his time. The White House said this evening he will make a decision on whether to attack in the next 2 weeks. Now he is convening another White House discussion after being briefed on the pros and cons about bombing the fortified facility in Fordo, inclined to do that. No real clarity. At the end of the day, really, no real clarity coming from Donald Trump, only statements. From an Israeli perspective, they are worried. Netanyahu thought, yeah, well, he's going to probably have to join me at some point, but that is still not happening. These were the main things that I wanted to share with you in this live stream. And before we go anywhere, I'd like to thank everyone who has participated in the chat. Thank you very much for that. Everyone, whether you're new or you've been with me for a while, welcome. And a special thanks to Mano Shahr, Ralph, Hamid, Veritas, and Michael, Sheedster, Rami, Danielle, Michael, Farah, AJ, and Joe. Thank you very much, my friend. You said, Joe, Jazakallah for khair work, barakallah feek, brother. Do you think this will have any bearing on the Gaza genocide, or that with the Russian-Chinese involvement will signal the end of the American empire? Well, I think that the United States is having a lot of delusions of still being the empire that it once was. I think they're in denial, and they made quite miscalculated moves, to be fair. I don't think they have clarity, and there's a lot of, a state of being in denial and arrogant too. We already live in a world where we're getting to multipolarism, and I think this will have a bearing on the Gaza genocide, because we wouldn't have been here if it didn't start on the 7th of October in Al-Aqsa flood. That's where the recent things started to escalate from, didn't they? Of course, things started way long back. I mean, it wasn't like an event taken out of context. Israel occupied, Israel butchered, Israel ethnically cleansed, Israel imprisoned. They put people in an open air concentration camp. But undoubtedly, and I think Iran knows very well now that it's a case of to be or not to be. And guess what? I think that's a lesson for other shameful regimes in the area too. That guess what? Even if you don't do anything, you will get your turn. Everyone is looking, and there are already talks, by the way, in Israel about moving on to Turkey and to Pakistan afterwards. What do you think they'll finish there? They'll tell you, God promised Pakistan to me 7,000 years ago. And God promised Persia when we used to be Martians 550 million years ago, because my book says so. So they're realizing that now. Thank you very much for that. That was from Joe Wolf and F as well. Thank you very much for that. Much appreciated. Let's see if I missed any of you. Yeah, these were the majority. Thank you so much for that. Oh, Studio and TC and Korolova. I'm not sure if I missed you, but thank you for that. Yvonne as well. See if I had any other questions here. Alexander, you're saying I missed you. Sorry if I missed you or anyone else. Alexander, thank you very much. Yeah, okay, no, I can't see anything else. So we'll most likely wrap it up there, because in the beginning days, it was mostly intense during the night, but clearly now we have a different type of pattern coming from Iran. Therefore, I have to make moves, as in videos in the morning and in the evening too. Like yesterday, for example, some people were waiting all night, and then, people went to bed, and Iran decided to attack Tel Aviv at 7:14 in the morning. Paletti is also saying, do you think Iraq is in trouble because of the war? No, but I think Iraq has a big problem, which is the United States presence there, as in terms of bases and force, and the fact that their airspace is compromised. That's a very big problem, and that's a problem in every country that allows its airspace to be used by Israel. Where is your sovereignty? And the United States knows that there's going to be problems if they participate, especially in Iraq. from a Iraqi perspective, some elements in Iraq already have a big problem with the United States presence there, and the remaining forces. They don't have a problem with them having like an embassy or what have you, but in the way that they are there and how they allow these things to happen. And they were disappointed with the fact that the United States was even entertaining the idea, and Trump and his arrogant statements about potentially targeting Sayyid Ali Khamenei. Now, even if they do, by the way, there's already someone who's there to replace him and replace another person, but that would be a very grave mistake. And with that, Mahmoud, do you think China would invade Taiwan if the United States gets involved? I think China will have its own plan in Taiwan, and the Chinese are rational in how they operate, and they don't have knee-jerk reactions, unlike the United States and even NATO in many cases too. They have long-term strategies, and I think that they will be working based on those strategies. However, depending on how things go and how fast they do, the Chinese will sense the urgency and they will take actions. And I am pretty certain that the Chinese have taken certain actions or made some very blunt and clear statements to the Americans in the past several days, warning them from any potential participation, because the Chinese will not allow something like that to happen, especially with Iran being the biggest oil exporter to China. They're not going to be allowing some sort of a puppet regime to be there controlling the oil, and all of a sudden have someone like Trump deciding to close the taps on China in any future trade war. They're not going to let that happen. And guess what? They will be helping Iran be in a very strong position so that they are able to inflict a lot of pain on anyone who even thinks of attacking them. Now, the Iranians are already inflicting pain, but they're inflicting pain only on Israel. Why? Because Israel is declaring this attack. And they just said that we're going to continue inflicting pain on them because we need them to repent. We need them to learn a lesson, and we need them to be in a position where they wouldn't even think of attacking us anytime soon. Like the previous IRGC leader, one of the senior figures of the IRGC said, Mohsen Razai, if we have a ceasefire with them now, that means they'll be attacking them. They'll be attacking us within several weeks or several months. And Iran does not want to be in that situation. The more days go by, the more the time plays on Iran's favor, or to Iran's favor, because Iran has a longer breath than Israel. They can sustain more. They're bigger. They're more powerful. They're genuine. Israel is very small, not genuine, weak, and it doesn't have the faith that the Iranians have. And that's something very important, by the way. The spirit of the Iranians is different. You see people playing the guitar, or, chanting and dancing, and, you'll see these bread makers in Iran continuing to make bread, whereas you have people screaming and basically pissing themselves. And we'll wrap it up there, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in for another live stream. I'll hopefully be with you tomorrow again. If something comes up in the morning, I will be with you with either a video or a live stream in the morning. Usually if there's an update, I'll have a video rather than the live stream, to keep the live streams kind of in a relevant time. In the meantime, thank you so much for tuning in. Many thanks to everyone who participated in chat and supported in the super. In the meantime, everyone stay blessed. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening, or night, depending on where you are. And I will see you soon in the next video. Peace, everyone. Salam. Take care.